Hi there, I'm Jen. I'm an adoptive mom from Ontario, Canada. Today I'd really like to talk about sort of a dirty word in the lives of caregivers who are raising children who are not neurotypical. This is a word and concept that we don't often acknowledge, let alone talk about, and that is shame. If I'm being completely honest here, shame has been this massive burden on my shoulders, kind of hanging off of me like an albatross for a lot of my years as an adoptive parent. And I have a feeling many of you who are watching can relate. So today I sort of want to talk about what shame is, but also what it's not. And most importantly, I want to give some practical strategies from a caregiver perspective as to how you can either eliminate or greatly reduce the shame that is felt in your home. So first, what is shame? A lot of us confuse shame and guilt. So my therapist friend Tanya likes to remind me that guilt can actually be a good thing. So guilt is what you feel when you've kind of messed up, okay? You have yelled at your kid over something they didn't do. You lost it with a teacher on the phone who wasn't really at fault and was just relaying some bad news. We've all been there, we've all screwed up. So guilt is that feeling you get like, I've done something wrong and I need to make amends, repair the relationship, and apologize for what I did. So in that way, guilt is actually a positive in our lives and it's not something we should try to ignore or eliminate. Shame, however, is an entirely different beast. Shame is usually a feeling we have deep down inside that we are just fundamentally unworthy. It's this negative, dark feeling we might have over a situation that we actually have no control over, but we're blaming and shaming ourselves for it. We're embarrassed and ashamed that our family doesn't fit this mold of what society considers normal. We're ashamed of what our life looks like compared to this perfect family next door. And by the way, caregivers are not the only ones who feel shame. Our children feel shame as well, deep shame, and it's something they often try to cover up or hide with extreme behaviors. Shame can be a deep sense of self-loathing, and what it does not do is lead us to repair things. It doesn't cause us to want to make amends in a relationship. Shame actually causes us to want to hide. So when you are living in a home and within a family, perhaps like mine, and you have some extra challenges, perhaps you're a caregiver that is experiencing aggression from your child or teenager on a regular basis, shame can rear its ugly head. If you're like me, you're embarrassed as a caregiver to share what you're experiencing with anybody else outside of your home. And then often when you do open up, instead of being met with compassion or understanding, you're met with a lot of judgment, hostility, or misunderstanding from your friends, from family, from professionals as well. So tell me if this sounds familiar. You are sharing with a friend or professional or family member that you're having a lot of trouble de-escalating the aggression that you're experiencing in your home. And the response of the person listening to you is kind of a finger wagging. They put their hand on their hip and they're kind of like, well, you shouldn't let them get away with that. When I was raising children, I did X, Y, and Z whenever they did this, and it kept them in line, and you're just letting them get away with everything. This is a parenting flaw on your part. Why don't you give them a timeout? Why don't you ground them? Why don't you take away their privileges? If you did that, you wouldn't be experiencing what you're experiencing right now. Or even worse is when people say to you, well, you're the one who chose this life. You chose to be an adoptive, kin, or customary care parent, and now you're dealing with the consequences. I've heard that before, and it is soul crushing. And while those who are trying to help you, that might be helpful in a situation where you're raising a neurotypical child, that is the opposite of helpful. If a caregiver has never raised somebody with ASD or FASD or who has experienced early life trauma and neglect, and they're trying to give you advice and they're trying to shame you for how you're parenting, you need to walk away. You need to get advice from somebody else, because don't they know that you have tried all that already? You've tried every parenting method out there and it does not work. And so there it is. There's that load of shame you're feeling on your shoulders that's just getting greater and greater. And then let's not forget what's being directed at us from our children and teenagers. So we're hearing phrases like, you're a horrible parent. I don't want to live here anymore. I hate you. I wish you had never become my parent. I want to move out and go live with so-and-so. I want them to be my parent. So now you're just basically surrounded by people telling you what a horrible, awful job you're doing and how they can't even stand to be around you. Guys, how can any human being withstand that? What can you do about it? Well, for myself, just practically, I had to come to the realization that all this negative input I had to balance with a whole lot more of positive input coming in. So if you think about it, all those words being slung at us from outside of our home and from inside of our home and from ourselves, they're all lies. They're not true. But it's been said so much to us that we believe that it's true. So what really helped me practically as a parent, and I hope will help you, is to combat the lies with the truth. So I have an adoptive parent friend who was in this situation, and they got some really good advice. And that was to take out a clean blank sheet of paper. And before they wrote anything, they were supposed to think of all the phrases that were being said to them that were causing shame. So, you're not good enough, you're a horrible parent, I hate you, you don't love me. All of these sorts of things they were hearing. You're not doing this right, you're doing it wrong. They were supposed to think of all those things and then make a list that was the opposite of each one of those things. So they sat down and they started writing on that list. You are loving, you are kind, you are a good parent, you are doing this right. All sorts of phrases like that were just the opposite. And actually, when you read through it, those were true phrases. But to this parent who was so full of shame, at first when they read them, those phrases seemed false because they were so used to being told the opposite. So what they did is they took this list of true phrases and they taped it to the mirror in their own bathroom. So it wasn't a bathroom that the kids used or anything. And if you want to do this at home, like maybe you put it in a closet or you put it somewhere that other people aren't going to be seeing it all the time, but that you see every day. And so what this caregiver started to do is they would just see that list every day and they would read it. And at first they were just like reading it in their head. But then they started to actually say the phrases out loud. I love my kids. I'm a good caregiver. I am doing the right thing. I am meant to be a parent. These children are meant to be in my home, in my care. And so they just started reading those. And eventually it was really interesting that they started to believe that those things were true. Pretty soon they were starting to feel a lot more confident inside. So if you have time to sit and do that today or the next day, maybe try that exercise out and see if it helps your sense of shame. And as we already kind of talked about, our kids and teens feel that shame too. So maybe this is an exercise you could do with them. You could help them find the truth amid all of the lies they tell themselves and all of the shame they are feeling. And you can speak the truth into their life, and you can recruit others to be speaking that truth into their life as well. Another really simple way to reduce shame is to tell your story to a safe audience. So what I mean by that is we talked at the beginning about trying to tell your story to someone and all you're met with is judgment. So a great tactic is trying to find a community. So maybe you're finding a community online of other parents who are raising neurodivergent children, other parents who are raising children with FASD. If you're a grandparent, maybe you're going to find a community of other grandparents who are raising their grandchildren. And the idea behind carefully telling your story is it takes bravery to do it, but you're going to want to try to reach out to people in that community and say, truthfully, I am feeling a great deal of shame and embarrassment, but I need to share with you what I'm going through, and I need you not to judge me and offer advice. Okay, so just be real clear on that at the beginning. And then tell your story, because the more people you share it with, you're bringing something out into the light that was kind of in the darkness and shame. So you're bringing it out into the light, and suddenly that embarrassment you're feeling starts to disappear. And you just kind of become an open book. And a lot of adoptive kid and customary care parents have found this really successful. And when I talk to them, they're like, listen, I have no secrets anymore. I'm an open book. And there's something freeing about saying that and about being able to be open and honest with each other. And sometimes just to smile, cry, or laugh about the things we're experiencing in that safe community is really, really helpful. So, what's your goal today? Are you going to reach out and text somebody, go out for coffee with somebody? How are you going to connect and share your story? And also, how are you going to replace the lies with the truth? What can you do today to insert some positive language into your life to remind yourself of what an incredible, incredible human being you are and what an amazing job you are doing as a caregiver. So thanks for listening today, and don't forget to be kind to yourself.